everybody. This is Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world. And this is Arlo. This is my new boxer baby. He is 11 weeks old. He's a little mouthy. He is a puppy. So he is rambunctious and he is silly, but he is so sweet. He's such a little sweetie. He's into everything right now, chewing on everything. But yeah, this is our baby. This is our new baby. Hi. Yes, I'm talking about you. So his name is Arlo. He is learning his name. He's doing pretty good with it. Oh, he's so soft. So this is such an exciting video. This is not a floss tube. I'm not going to show you everything I've been doing. I'm going to show you one huge thing I've been doing. And of course, I needed to show the new baby. So that's my new baby. Let me show you my other baby. I've got another baby. This is my reproduction sampler. You like that? And I'm going to get Arlo situated, and then I will tell you a little bit more about this in just 1 minute. Say bye, puppy. Say bye-bye. Okay, so now that the puppy's gone, let me tell you the story behind these two samplers. Yes, they're the exact same sampler, but stitched in two colorways. So this one is stitched 2 strands over 2 on a 32 count, and this one is stitched 1 strand over 2 on a 40 count. So you can see quite a difference in the size here. But not only did I stitch them on 2 different counts of linen, I stitched this in 2 colorways. So let me show you the original sampler, so this might make a little more sense. So the story behind this sampler is I purchased this on my birthday, January 29th, off of Etsy, and here's the original sampler. This is a wool floss stitched on a very large count linen, and it was stitched in 1870 by a young girl named Thirza Priscilla Dawes. And you're probably going, well, why is this rectangle shaped? Didn't you just show me a square shaped sampler? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So this linen is not even. It possibly was not even when it was originally stitched on, but I also wonder if maybe just gravity over time has stretched this linen out. But I was completely shocked when I started charting this sampler and realized it was square. I actually had to go back and count the border several times because I was like, well, I must have missed a few. But no, this is actually what she stitched. And it was a really pleasant surprise because I actually really think I like it better as a more square design. It is not perfectly square. It is 183 wide by 189 high. So it is just slightly not square, but very close to being square. So this original sampler, what happened was I woke up, it was my birthday, and I woke up and I was, made my coffee and I opened Instagram, and Jessica, Schoolhouse Stitcher on Instagram, and she makes floss tubes as well. She had posted that she had found this sampler and that she wasn't going to buy it, but she was really tempted. And she's like, I don't know, maybe one of you will. And I was intrigued by her post, and I went and found the sampler. And I think just because it was my birthday and I was in a kind of like treat yourself, it's your birthday mood, I just impulse purchased this. I had zero intention of buying a sampler. I had zero, it wasn't even on my radar. It was literally just, it was kismet that it was my birthday. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So I did. And then the sampler arrived really pretty quickly, and I started charting it immediately because I was so excited, and I started stitching it immediately. But here's the thing I love about this sampler. So samplers in the later 1800s, especially like after the mid 1800s, tended to almost always use this wool floss, which was dyed with synthetic dyes. So you were able to get some pretty interesting colors. So this sampler is really, really colorful, and that's what drew me to it immediately. There is a lot of color on here, but it is faded. And what just completely blew my mind was the back of the sampler. Now, Thurza was not a neat stitcher, so please let's not judge her too harshly. She carried threads like it was going out of style. But I was just so shocked at how preserved these colors were on the back of the sampler. I mean, this is practically neon. Like this berry bowl right here, particularly, is so, so bright. So I was just floored at the kind of color that I was seeing on the back of the sampler. And I just started thinking, like, how did this look when she stitched it? Like, how did she want it to look? So often we see these beautiful, gorgeous, faded, aged, antiqued samplers. They've faded because of sunlight or dust, dirt, whatever, you know, and I love those samplers. I love the, you know, like I would say like the Blackbird designs kind of look with those like muted dusty blues and lots of browns. Gorgeous. But I think it's really fascinating to think what did the original stitcher intend for this to look like? How did it look as she was stitching it, or he, but often it was a little girl. So that's what caused me to chart this in two ways, because I was initially drawn to the stunning, beautiful front of the sampler, but I was just completely blown away by the colors on the back. So here is what I did. I charted it. I charted the entire thing from the front using DMC. Both of these are charted in DMC, and I actually, you know, spent so much time matching these colors as close as I could. And some of them are spot on exact. Some of them are really, really close. Although there are so many colors of DMC, when you are trying to match something exactly, it's amazing how many times you just need that one shade in between. Like there's like a dusty blue, and it's like, this one's just a little too light and this one's just a little too dark, and I just need one right in the middle. And so in those situations, you have to kind of make a judgment call. So although these are not perfect matches, I think they're really, really close, and I spent a lot of time getting exact colors. So I charted the front with the colors I was seeing, and then I flipped the sampler over and I redid the entire colorway with the brighter colors. Now, I didn't have to redo the entire chart because it had already been charted, but I did have to go through every color and rematch it. So I spent a lot of time just charting this. So this is what I came up with for colors based on the back of the sampler. How I think Thurza would have charted it, or not charted because she wouldn't have charted, but just how she stitched it. Now, granted, some of the colors on the back have probably faded as well, but I do think this is probably closer to what she was seeing as she stitched this chart. And she liked colors. There are 37 colors in this sampler, 37 unique colors. It wasn't a matter of this one faded, funny, like truly 37 unique colors. She had quite a palette she was working with. And some of them I think I matched really, really well. So, and some I just couldn't get like exact, and I just had to do the best I could. So for example, this, let me just look at this motif right here. I could not quite get the exact orange because DMC just doesn't make quite that shade of orange. I'm going to try to hold it next to, so you can see. So I think the purple's pretty close, and I think the orange is pretty close, but I couldn't get it exact. But I do think, you know, overall, this is how this sampler appeared to her. And you can see it's just so colorful. It's amazing that she would have been stitching this, and just, I mean, it's so vibrant and it's so exuberant, and I just am obsessed with it. So this is 32 count Zweigart linen in the color silk, which is just, it's white. It's a white. There's maybe a little tone to it, maybe like a slight pinkish tone, but essentially it's mostly just white. And I don't know what color she originally stitched on. This linen certainly has aged, but was it stark white? Was it ivory? Was it cream? I'm not really sure. So I just had to kind of make a call there. So I stitched this on a white 32 count linen, and this is how it turned out. I love it. I love it. What I love is just that she crammed every little last thing she could on this sampler. It's busy. It's a maximalist sampler. There's only one space that I'm like, hey, you probably could have fit something on there. And I think it's like right here. Like, you maybe could have fit a little something in there. But I mean, she really just used every last bit she could of her surface, which to me, that makes me think she just really loved stitching, and she just was like, what else can I fit in here? Because she didn't want to be done. She wanted to keep going. I don't know. That's kind of the fun thing about charting and stitching these, is you kind of just start to think about, like, you know, what was the stitcher thinking? What was she doing? She ran motifs right up against each other. Some of these, there's a little hair there. Some of these motifs are actually touching. Sorry. Especially over here, she really ran them all together. So there are parts where the motifs run right into the border. There are parts where they just run into each other. And then there are parts where, you know, they're spaced a little nicer. But she really utilized her space. But she did such a great job of counting. I was really impressed. This border, she never added one extra or dropped a stitch. She was so consistent on this border. It is 9 stitches, 5 up, 9 stitches, 5 down. So it's just 9, 5, 9, 5, 9, 5. Super easy to do the border because I didn't have to keep checking the chart going, okay, did she do 10 stitches here or did she do 8 here? She was completely consistent. The only thing she did with the border was over here, she kind of went a little wacky with the border. And I think it's funny that she didn't rip it out. She just was like, yeah, whatever, that can stay. But otherwise, she was extremely consistent with the border. Wherever these motifs are mirrored, she was exact. And I counted all of them just to be sure. I double checked everything. Anything that was mirrored, I wanted to make sure that, you know, she hadn't had a slight change, but where she mirrored the motifs, they are perfectly mirrored. The only exception is in the mosaic parrots here. There's one spot where she like was off 1 stitch or so. Overall, you can't tell, but it is charted the way she stitched it. So this was the original color palette. I know it's bright, I know it's bold, I know it's not for everybody, but I think it is so fun, and I think it is just so charming and interesting. There are bright samplers out there. I'm not saying there aren't. I just don't see a lot of them. I don't see many of them. So I think it's just so wonderful to have a sampler that's so bright and colorful and chock full of goodness. So that is the original colorway. And then I charted with colors that would represent the actual sampler as I was seeing it on the front. So I think unfortunately I can't hold these two up, but I think I got really close. My fabric is not the same color as this, but the actual motifs, I think the colors are pretty spot on. So this is stitched on 40 count Fox and Rabbit linen in the color Salt Bush, which is a brand new color that I just released at market. And you're probably thinking, maybe you're not, but you might be going, that just came out a couple weeks ago. Like how do you already have this done? But Karen, the design, not a designer, and the owner with her husband Brendan of Fox and Rabbit, actually graciously sent me a piece of this linen a couple of weeks before market. So I got a little early release there. I'm maybe bragging just a little, but Karen, let me take a minute here. Karen has held my hand and guided me so graciously through this process. She's just been so encouraging and just so excited. I just had said, look at this sampler I'm getting. Like I'm so excited. And she was just like, it's amazing. It's wonderful. And then I just constantly was like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And she gave me so much advice. She had such wonderful tips for me and was just like an invaluable resource. And I appreciate her so much. And Brendan, her husband, actually helped me a lot with researching Miss Thirza Priscilla Dawes. And I will talk about that in a minute, because Brendan loves doing genealogy and ancestry and all of those things. So he helped me a lot with some history on Thurza. But all that to say that Karen was like, hey, I think one of our new colors would really work well for this. So she sent me a piece, and I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I know it's not an exact match for the original, but I think it's so gorgeous. So this is the color Salt Bush. It's 40 count linen. And these are all different DMCs. So if you did want to stitch both versions, you're looking at like 74 colors of DMC. Am I doing my math right? I think so. Yeah. But I know it's a lot of DMC. But I wanted it to be a faithful reproduction, and she used 37 colors of DMC. So, this is my reproduction of the front of the chart. So let me show you one last time, those two side by side. I'm trying to make sure they're both in frame. I'm so happy. I am so thrilled. I'm so excited about this release. So just a little bit of information about this chart. It will be available on my Gumroad, which I will link down below. And for the first time, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, everybody's probably got an opinion about this, but I am going to charge for this chart. Now, traditionally, historically, my charts have been pay what you want, and you can put a 0 and you can have the chart for free. But with this chart, there was just so much work that went into this. I mean, I literally spent hours and hours and hours and hours just charting it, hours upon hours just picking out floss colors, and then of course stitching both of them, which that was not a burden. I was so excited to stitch these charts. I could not wait to stitch these charts. And I did forget to tell you, how long did it take me to stitch these charts? I stitched this version in 16 days. Now, that included like a couple of, maybe like a Saturday here and there, where I stitched like all day long. So generally I don't think I would stitch this in 16 days, but I was obsessed. I was so excited. I wanted to see it come to life. So I was just stitching obsessively on it. And then, like to the detriment of like not cleaning my house, not getting chores done, like not doing anything else, just stitching away. So I did this one in 16 days. And then with this version, I really slowed down. I didn't want to get burnt out. I was stitching it for the second time. It helped a lot that I was stitching with different colors, that I was stitching on a different count, but I didn't want to just totally get burnt out on this. So I did take my time. So I think this one, I don't know. I didn't actually count. But this one probably took, I mean, I guess it's probably been 3 to 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks, maybe. Kind of took my time with this one. But I also knew that at some point it dawned on me. I had originally planned to release these, like the second I was done stitching them, I was going to put them out in the world. And then I realized Thurza has a date on her sampler, April 8th, April 8th, 1870. And I thought, how nice would it be to release this on April 8th? And so that kind of also gave me a minute to like take a breath and slow down and not have to stitch like just furiously trying to meet some kind of arbitrary deadline, because all of a sudden it was like, I have 2 more weeks to finish this. So this is the 152nd anniversary of the date that Thurza Priscilla has put on her sampler. Now, did she finish it on April 8th? Did she start it on April 8th? Who knows? But that's the date that's on here. So that's the date it's coming out. April 8th, 2022. So that's what I have to say about this. Oh, so sorry. Sidetrack. I am charging for these charts because of all of the work that I have put into these. Not that I haven't put work into my other charts. I have, but I don't know. This one just feels more special. It feels more important, and I just don't want to give it away for free. And I'm sorry if that disappoints anybody. But yeah, this one's not going to be for free. I'm sorry. But you can go to my Gumroad down below and you can download it, and it's going to be $20. And if there is anybody out there that truly, that is a hardship, but you really want this chart, just send me a message. I'm sure we can work something out. Okay, future me editing, because I forgot to mention that I will, in the link below for the purchase of this chart, the $20 chart fee includes both colorways, both versions of this chart. So you will not, sorry, the puppy's down here chewing. So you will not have to buy, you won't have to pick if you're undecided or purchase both. The chart will include both versions. Let's see them. I love seeing them side by side, like big Thurza and baby Thurza. So that's what I have to say about the chart, but let me tell you a little bit about Thurza. So because she had such a unique name, Thirza Priscilla Dawes, I was actually able to locate her. Well, I was able to locate her, but Bren from Fox and Rabbit really got me a lot of information about Thurza. So, what I found out about Thurza was she was born in 1856. So she stitched this sampler when she was 13 years old. And she was from a small village in England, in the UK, and it was called Hurstmonceau. And I may not be saying that correctly, it's French. But at the time that she lived in this region, it was actually, I think, where this small hamlet, small village, was also just referred to as Gardner Street, because the few people who lived there lived on Gardner Street. And there was a castle nearby, which was the Hurstmonceau Castle. And at some point, Gardner Street just started to be called Hurstmonceau. But either way, it is about 45 miles south of London. And it is very near the coast of the English Channel. So it is, I want to say the village was 6 or 7 miles from the coast. So I like to think that, she would visit the seaside quite often. But this village was very small. The population from like the 1850s to the 1890s was only about 1,300 people. So it was quite a small little village. The nearest decent sized town was a town called Hailsham, which was just a couple miles away. But the next big town would have been Brighton, which was about like 21 miles away. So did she go get this floss in Brighton, or did she go to London? Or, you know, like, I don't know. It's so fascinating to me, like, to think about those things. But regardless, her father was a painter and a glazier. So to me, I don't know a lot about occupations at that time, but that sounds like a pretty modest occupation. It doesn't sound necessarily like a, you know, like a gentlemanly occupation. But apparently, you know, they had money to afford these beautiful flosses. But that is what I was able to find about, you know, where she was likely born, where she grew up. She was definitely baptized in that area, so I would assume she was born there as well. I wasn't able to find necessarily all of the records that I would hope. I don't believe there was a birth certificate. But anyway, this is where she lived. This is where she grew up. And she did sadly pass away in this area. So the date of her death is a little bit up in the air. Bryn found, I don't know if I'm not sure exactly where he found, but somewhere he found that her death was in 1876, where that would have put her at age 20. However, I did find a copy of her father's tombstone, which is just super wild to me. But there is a website online where people go to like local historic cemeteries and take pictures of the tombstones and then like upload it. It's like a public use library. And somebody has been to this small church graveyard where her father is buried and had a picture of her tombstone and his tombstone. And on his tombstone was his, you know, birth and date of death, and then his wife, and then Thurza, and then another daughter. So obviously the tombstone was engraved well after her death. However, the tombstone says 1879. So was it 1876, age 20? Was it 1879, age 23? Was some kind of mistake made? So it was just a lot of mystery and things to unravel. But I do believe the gravestone engraving would have been done many, many, many years after her death, because her sister, I think, died like in her 60s and she's engraved on the tombstone. So it really could have just been an error. I don't have a copy of her death certificate. It's something I'm debating if I want to pursue, but regardless, she did pass away from a very young age. So either 20 or 23, but either way, that is so young and really quite tragic. So, but that's what I was able to find out about her family, just dipping my toe into genealogy and ancestry. I certainly am not even, I wouldn't even call myself a novice. This was my first foray, but it was very fascinating, very intriguing. So that's what I was able to find out about Thurza. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but that's all I can think of for right now. So again, if you are interested in stitching the chart in either colorway, the link will be on my gumroad down below. And let me just show you the original one last time. There it is. There's the front. And then there's the super vibrant, crazy back. So I hope you love her as much as I do. I had so much fun charting. I had fun every step of the way, charting, researching, picking colors, stitching. It was an absolute blast. So I am absolutely in love with Miss Thurza, and I hope you are too. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next time.